Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Stepping Stones to Your Success. Today we're going into Fundamental Natural Law Masterclass number 2. And our theme on this is the choices you make are going to shape your life. You see, every decision that you make is casting a vote for the person that you're becoming. Life is rarely changed by any one huge decision. More often than not, it's shaped by hundreds of small choices that we make every single day. Those choices become habits. And then our habits become our character, and ultimately our character becomes our legacy. Throughout this masterclass, we're going to explore what I call the big 5 principles of character, which are generosity, awareness, regret, identity, and significance. 5 timeless principles that not only can change the life you build, but the legacy that you leave behind. As always, tell them what you're going to do it, and then tell them what you just did. So let's get this party started with generosity, which is highlighted through critical management skill number 11. The story is called Pay It Forward. Let me tell you a quick story about when I went to Grandmaster Buell as a blue belt, and I had told him, you know what, sir, I got to stop training. And he says, how come? This is because I can't afford it no more. And he looked at me dead in the eye and says, what can you afford? So I told him what I could afford, and he says, okay, we're going to go with that. And I said, but wait, aren't you going to bargain with me? Aren't you going to negotiate? And he says, no, I trust people 100% until they give me a reason not to trust them. Are you saying I can't trust you, Mr. Johnson? And I said, no, sir, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I'm not used to it. And he says, well, get used to it. And I said, okay, well, thank you. And then he said some profound stuff that I still remember to this day. And he says,
no. If you want to thank me, when you are in a position of influence, I want you to do what I just did for you. And then you remember me. That's how you thank me.
I said, okay, consider it done. So I made a promise on that day that when I'm in a position of influence, I'm going to make sure that the money never gets in the way of doing the right thing. So if I have a mom, single mom or a single dad that's coming to me and they really need martial arts for their child and they can't afford it, then I'm going to ask them straight up, what can you afford? They're going to tell me I can afford X. I'll say, okay, we're going to go with that. And 9 times out of 10, I get a response back like, are you sure? I mean, aren't you going to bargain with me? I said, no, I trust people till they give me a reason not to. Are you saying I can't trust you? I said, no, I'm just saying I'm not used to that. I said, okay, well, get used to it. And they end up saying thank you, oftentimes with tears in their eyes, because that single mom, in many cases, is feeling like they're trying to beat a bear back with a switch, and it's her and her children against the world. And I'm here to share, no, you got me now, and you got all I represent. You got this school behind you now. And it may seem like when you bring a problem to me, and it's one against the problem, it's a huge, overwhelming problem. But when I bring 300 against that same problem, it seems minute in comparison. The upside is you got me and all I represent. The downside is you got me and all I represent. So the point is, you're not alone anymore. I can bring an army of resources to help you with any problem that you have. So, welcome to the family. The bottom line is this. I appreciate the lesson that Grandmaster Buell taught me so many years ago. Because of his kindness, I'm still training today, and I'm striving every day to continue to pay it forward. So that brings us back full circle on Fundamental Natural Law number 11, which is pay it forward. All the best to you and your family. Have a wonderful night, and we'll be back to you real soon. Welcome back. We just explored the first of the big 5 principles of character, which is generosity. One act of kindness may seem small in the moment, but kindness has a remarkable way of multiplying. Many of the greatest blessings in our lives is because someone chose to invest in us. But character requires more than generosity. It also requires awareness. Let's continue. Now, I've been taught that if you want to get a point across, you need to wrap a story around it. So let me tell you a story, a true story of what happened to me when I was less than humble. And I remember to this day, I was in the Navy and I was stationed on a ship out of Pearl Harbor. And we had pulled in for the weekend, so I was headed to the gym to get a good solid workout in. And I'm thinking to myself, me and my blue belt, I'm getting pretty good at this martial arts stuff, and there ain't too many people that can whoop me. And so I get to the gym, and I start warming up, and this little old man comes up to me, and he says,
"Oh, I see you're in the martial arts."
And he says, I dabble with it a little bit. And then he looked at me and says,
"I'm in the martial arts as well. Would you mind sparring with me, sir?"
And I looked at him. He was a full head shorter than me. And I said, "Sure, I'll take it easy on you, old man." And then, to my surprise, he looked at the guy right next to me. And he says,
"Would you mind sparring with me as well?"
And he looked at him and said, "Yeah, I'll spar with you." And then he looked at both of us. And he says,
"Would you mind, both of you gentlemen, sparring me at the same time?"
And we looked at each other in disbelief and said, "Sure, we'll do it." And I got to tell you, that old man beat the tar out of both of us at the same time. He mopped the floor with both of us. He cleaned our clock. He was so fast I couldn't tell if he's hit me with his hands or his feet. He'd hit me on this side, I'd see all black. He'd hit me upside the head. On this side, I'd see all white. And I got to tell you, it was not my finest hour. There's a saying in the martial arts, trauma teaches. On that day, folks, that was a very traumatic experience for me. Here I am, thinking I'm all that. 20 minutes later, I get knocked down a couple of notches by this little old man. My dad says it best. He says, one of the hardest things you're ever going to have to do, Garland, is get off your high horse gracefully. Well, I'm here to tell you, folks, on that day, I didn't have to get off my high horse. That old man kicked me off my high horse and taught me a lesson that I still carry with me to this day. It says, always maintain your humility, because the day you start thinking you know it all, that's the day you're going to stop learning. And that's the day that somebody might come out of the shadows and show you you're not as good as you think you are. Powerful lesson for me to learn. So that's why I so enjoy adopting this philosophy of being a student for life. Because that's where the joy at. That's where the good stuff is. There's a saying, when a tree stops growing, it starts to die. As long as we're learning, folks, we're growing. So have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your night, and let's keep on learning. Have a great night. Talk to you soon.
We just explored the second of the big 5 principles of character, which is awareness. Awareness helps us recognize danger before it becomes regret. Unfortunately, none of us sees every danger. Sometimes life's greatest lessons comes only after we have experienced loss. The question is, will that moment define us, or will it refine us? Let's continue with fundamental natural law number 76, which tells the story of I lost him.
I'm sure that works very well over there in that culture. But I got to tell you, over here, it's a crash and burn. And sir, if you want to keep me on your team, don't ever do that to me again. Let me tell you a quick story. The story is about my life outside of the martial arts. You see, not only am I a professional martial arts school owner, I'm also fortunate enough to be on the senior management team at one of the best Fortune 500 companies in the world of retail. Then I remember we were having a morning meeting in the back, and everybody was there. And Johnny, who reported to me, said something he shouldn't have said, in my opinion, and I got a little bit frustrated with him. I jumped on Johnny and ripped him up one side, down the other, and tore him a whole new rear end in front of his subordinates, in front of his peers, in front of his superiors. And I realized I was making a mistake with Johnny about halfway through, because I was watching his eyes and the tears were starting to well up. I tried to give him a graceful out, and I explained to him, I said, Johnny, you know we love you. Okay, but if you make this mistake again, we're going to have to kill you. Now, everybody laughed, except for Johnny. And after our meeting, we dismissed, and all of us dispersed and started heading towards working on our action items for the day. And I realized and recognized I'd made a mistake, and the more I thought about it, the more it bothered me. So I decided to get Johnny into the office, and I spoke to him. I said, Johnny, I wanted you to understand that at the morning meeting, I think I was a little too harsh on you, and I wanted to apologize for that and ask you to forgive me. What I realized I was doing is what's called a Chinese special. Now, I learned that from my years in Hawaii. Now, the Chinese special is when a person makes a mistake, and what you do is make sure that the punishment is 10 times worse than the crime. And you make it painful, you make it ugly, you make it uncomfortable for not only the person that said the comment, but for everybody around them as well, so they all learn from that what was perceived as a stupid mistake. And I realized I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. And I apologize, and I'd ask you to forgive me, Johnny. And Johnny looked at me dead in the eyes, and he says, Garland, I've already forgiven you. But I need you to clearly understand, sir, I don't live in Hawaii, and I'm certainly not Chinese. And I'm sure that works very well over there in that culture. But I gotta tell you, over here, it's a crash and burn. And sir, if you want to keep me on your team, don't ever do that to me again. And I looked at him. I says, point well taken. You're absolutely correct. I'm absolutely wrong. I will never do that again to you or to anyone else. Thank you, and I appreciate you forgiving me. And we dispersed. And over the next 4 weeks, I tried my best to get him back. I tried my best to bring him under my wing, to bring him back into the fold. And I crashed, and I burned, because 4 weeks later, he left the company. I realized I made a critical mistake and I lost Johnny. I realized that on that day I inserted a wedge in our relationship. In essence, I fractured our relationship, and as a result, I lost somebody really good. And that still bothers me to this day. That still haunts me to this day. It's still a cross that I bear to this day. My preacher said it best. His name's Mark Coward. He's the one that said,
Garland, truth without grace is like an operation without anesthesia.
And I went on to add to that, operation's effective, but that patient will never darken our door again because it was too painful for them. And I've learned that a person needs love the most when they probably deserve it the least. On that day, I should have shown Johnny more love. He was magnanimous enough to show me love when I deserved it the least. And I believe that Maya Angelou says it best when she said,
I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Again, people will forget what you say, they're going to forget what you do, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. On that day, I did not make Johnny feel good, and I lost him as a result. I'll never make that mistake again. So let's all learn from my stupid mistake and remember fundamental natural law number 76, which is truth without grace is like an operation without anesthesia. Let's always be graceful in our comments. And remember, a person needs love the most when they probably deserve it the least. And let's be mindful in remembering that our words have power and that we want to use them to build up, not tear down. So, have a wonderful rest of your day. All the best to your family. And we'll be back to you real soon.
We've just explored the third of the big 5 principles on character, which is regret. Now, regret can be a prisoner, or it can be one of life's greatest teachers. The decision we make after disappointment often defines the person that we become. Our identity is never defined by what happens to us. It's formed by how we choose to respond. Let's continue with fundamental natural law number 25, which is a story about the tattoo.
Our oldest son is Andre. He was 17 at the time, and he says, Daddy, can I talk to you? And I said, sure. What's up? And he says, what do you think about tattoos? Now, I ain't got nothing against tattoos, but being an ex-Navy guy, I got to tell you, I have seen the bad side of ugly as far as tattoos are concerned, and I used some of my best stuff for 20 minutes to try and talk him out of ever getting a tattoo. Well, Andre's 18th birthday came up. And on his birthday, about 9:30 at night, he came into Bridget and I's bedroom, and he took off his shirt, turned around, and looked over his shoulder and says,
What do you think of the tattoo?
And there was, in all its glory, a tattoo from shoulder blade to shoulder blade. And I says, well, Andre, I think I love you. He says, yeah, I love you too, Dad. But what do you think about the tattoo? And I says, I think I love you. Gritting my teeth, by the way. And I looked at Bridget and asked her,
Did you know about this?
Yep. I helped him pay for half.
and I looked at her with disbelief. And then Andre chimed in again and says,
Dad is not about Mom. It is about me. What do you think of the tattoo?
so I looked at him dead in the eyes. And I said, son, I love you with all my heart. It's just that I don't like you very much right now. And I don't want to say or do anything that I'm going to have to apologize for later. So I need you to give me a little bit of space. If you could do that for me, I'd appreciate it. And his eyes got as big as silver dollars. And he says, yes, sir. And he left the room. And then Bridget looked at me dead in the eyes. And she says, you owe that boy an apology. And I says, I ain't apologizing to Jack. That means nobody. He says, no, you need to apologize. And I says, I'm not apologizing. And he says, no, you are apologizing. And I looked at her and said, shut up, I said to her. I said that on the inside. She explained. She says, look, you don't understand that this boy has been with his grandfather, and they, for months, have been traveling to 4 different states looking for the very best tattoo artist out there, and they found him, and they had him do that work. Now, what does the tattoo say? Well, it says Johnson, our last name, I responded. He is proud of his family name and is expressing that by way of his tattoo. So yes, Garland, you owe your son an apology, and you need to do that right now. On top of that, you need to tell him that you're proud of him and that he made a good decision. Do you understand? And to that I responded, yes, ma'am. If there's anything I've learned from Bridget in the 40 years that we've been together, there's 3 things. Number 1, I don't always have to be right. Number 2, if given a choice, pick the battles I think I can win. And when I'm battling with Bridget, that is a no-win situation. And number 3, I can choose to be happy or I can choose to be right. I choose to be happy. The bottom line as it pertains to Andre and his tattoo, Bridget was right, and I did apologize to our son. So have a wonderful night. All the best to your family, and I'll be back to you real soon.
We just explored the 4th of the big 5 principles of character, which is identity. Every decision leaves a mark, not only on our lives, but on the lives of everyone around us. In the end, people may forget our accomplishments, but they will rarely forget how we made them feel. This leads us to the 5th and final principle, which is significance. So let's continue with fundamental natural law number 6, which is a story about the cleaning lady.
I remember it was our second year in college, and our professor gave us a pop quiz. Now, I was a conscientious student. I breezed through all the questions until I read the last one. We will meet many people. They are all significant. They all deserve our attention and care, even if all we do is just smile and say hello. Let me tell you a quick story about the importance of remembering those that serve. I remember it was our second year in college, and our professor gave us a pop quiz. Now, I was a conscientious student. I breezed through all the questions until I read the last one. The last question that was asked is, what is the first name of the woman that cleans the school? Surely this was some kind of joke. I'd seen the cleaning lady several times. She was tall, dark, in her 50s, but how would I know her name? I handed in my paper, but I left that last question blank. Just before the class ended, one of the students asked if that last question was going to count towards our quiz grade. Absolutely, said the professor. He went on to explain, in your careers, folks, you're going to meet many people. All are significant. They deserve your attention and care, even if all you do is just smile and say hello. I never forgot that lesson. And I learned that her name is Shirley. The author of this story is unknown, but the message is really powerful. We will meet many people. They are all significant. They all deserve our attention and care, even if all we do is just smile and say hello. Have a wonderful evening. All the best to your family, and we'll be back to you real soon.
Congratulations. Today, we've explored the big 5 principles of character, which is generosity, awareness, regret, identity, and significance. These aren't simple ideas. They are building blocks. And just like that pagoda, every level depends on the strength of the foundation beneath it. Great job on sticking with me so far. Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one simple challenge. Tomorrow, I want you to pick one of the big 5 principles of character. Practice generosity, or increase your awareness. Could be learn from regret, or could be strengthen your identity, or make a decision. Intentionally live a life of significance. This doesn't have to be a giant step. One better choice, repeated day after day, has the power of changing your entire life. I encourage you, continue building your character, one level at a time, one decision at a time, one day at a time. Now that brings us up to speed on another 5 fundamental natural laws that can help us become the very best version of ourselves. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. All the best to your family, and I'll be back to you real soon.